what are some of the earliest money beliefs that women unknowingly inherit?
Right. So I think most of us inherit, money before we inherit beliefs or opinions about it, or rather, I should say, the values around it. Right. A family's money philosophy is very rarely passed on to kids as it should be. Right. So, for example, a daughter will watch her mother ask, say, permission to spend sometimes. Right. She sees that most of the household investments are in her father's name, or she looks at parents using traditional savings instruments, and it's called security, right? If they consider or talk about investing, she hears them call it risk. And it's not that it is said explicitly in so many words, right? It is just the vibe around these topics, right? And all of that is getting absorbed. So the most common belief that I hear, even from very accomplished women, is, one version or the other. But what it sounds like is that, money is not really mine to decide about, right? So it's not a rule, but it's more like a reflex, right, that women have. And the tragedy is that it has nothing to do with a woman's competence, right? Women in India, I mean, you will know, right, that in every field, women are excelling. Women are so highly educated. They're contributing, even in terms of the, workforce participation. It's increasing very, very incrementally for women, right? But women in India, they somehow sort of think that maybe it's some sort of cultural modesty. I don't know what is the right word to put it, but they grow up with this belief that they need somebody's permission to, have anything to do with money. This is what I feel is the biggest belief that unknowingly women in India tend to inherit. And of course, there will be exceptions to that.
You could call it a myth or a misconception which you feel that needs to be addressed first.
Around money is that you need a lot of it to begin your investing journey, right? Everybody thinks that, oh, I'm only 25, and I'm only 22, and I'm earning so little, and wait till I become in the leadership position, and I'll have like so many more lakhs. But the thing is that this decade, okay, so normally I don't advise looking at financial planning in terms of your age. It's more according to your responsibility. But the for most people, okay, the least amount of responsibilities is in this decade between 20 and 30, right? That is when your money is not really competing for attention with, say, buying a house and kids and, all of these other responsibilities that people have. So for me, done is better than done perfectly, right? So even if you start small, I mean, now there are daily SIPs, there are micro SIPs. We started Jan Nivesh with $250. I think even if somebody was to begin investing, do it as early as possible. This whole myth that I should have enough money and otherwise my investment journey is meaningless, that is the myth we have to break, because the compounding benefit that you will get between this 20 and 30, and if you can maintain the discipline later on in life as well, that will reap much greater rewards than starting with a huge sum later in life, right? Because in this journey, it is time which is of more meaning than just the absolute number. So don't worry about having tons of cash before you invest. Please do it as early as possible.
Understanding, how do we break that misconception that earning money is different from understanding money, and that's why it's important for women to educate themselves about finance and investment?
Because women are earning more and they're educated and they're opinionated and they're out there, we tend to confuse that with true empowerment, right? And today we're living, unfortunately, in a time where we still see tremendous amounts of violence and cruelty against women. And it's all very well to feel empowered, right? But a woman cannot leave a situation which she's not comfortable in unless she can afford to, right? Irrespective of what the law says. So therefore, don't confuse just earning unless you have managed to create shift that empowerment from a feeling to a number. So earning is, just about your skill, right? Understanding money is about your relationship with uncertainty. Now, I may earn, lakhs and lakhs and lakhs of money, but if it is all, going here and there and not really creating a nest egg for me or a safety net for me for my future, I wouldn't say it's meaningless, but in this particular context, yes. Right. So I meet a lot of women who earn well. Some of them may even be earning more than their husbands. But the moment the money lands in the account, they sort of tend to hand over many of the decisions, right? Especially in terms of investment. If it's a house that has to be bought, or they may give an opinion, but it's limited to some sense, right? How to plan the future, where to invest. So a lot of it is outsourced. So earning is a transaction, between you and the company or your employer or whatever. But understanding money is the relationship or the transaction that you are creating between you and your future self, right? So you can be brilliant as an employee, but completely absent as an investor, right? And that gap is where the financial vulnerability for women actually hides, and even for high earning women. So, let us not hide behind the fact that I may have a high salary, but unless I've managed to transmit or transform that into creating a safety net for myself, the benefit is limited to that extent.
And women are naturally taught to be responsible for money, but they still lack the ownership for the money, which they in fact even may earn themselves. So do you think there's a gap here?
And once again, I'm just giving this very broad strokes example, is that if you see in a boardroom, you will find men who will say things, some things may not really land with the rest of the audience, and it'll be shrugged off. But if I as a woman offer an opinion, if 90% of it is shrugged off, it's, I don't know how to put it in words, but you sort of get this fear, right? And it's the same with investing, right? So if you make mistakes in your investing journey, a man will shrug it off as a learning curve, right? For a woman, it will be that I'm not very good at it, and therefore maybe somebody else might do a better job. And we have this traditionally fear that if you lose money, then the road to earning it back, you have to double the effort, etc. And which is fine, right? Because that's the way it is in India. But it's not always about losing money, right? So once again, done is better than perfectly done. A lot of people lose money not because they choose bad funds, but it's because they don't either invest early enough or maintain the investing journey, the investing discipline, or they might even redeem from very good funds when the market falls, and this sort of panic mode sets in. So I think all women need to do is forget all the mindsets that they have sort of grown up with. Spend a few weekends just learning. Now there is so much content available, and of course I'll be very happy if they read my book. But it's really not that difficult, considering the kind of educational qualifications that women have. I'm sure this is something which is very, very basic for them. So I would urge all women, just spend a few weekends learning about money. And even if you want to outsource it, then you want to have an advisor, that's fine, because I don't people who have day jobs may find it very difficult to have the time to execute. But you must know enough about how it's being managed. How do you access it? Where is it? What will it mean for you? Will it be able, is it going to be enough to satisfy all your financial goals? You must at least have the very basic know-how, right? You must know if you're being cheated. You must know if it's being managed well. Don't just blindly trust another person. So it is fine if you don't want to do it yourself, but take that decision with some basis in knowledge.
I want to ask you this: how much of becoming a good investor is actually understanding your own behavior, and what are the common fears around investing that women particularly have?
Part of it, which is the asset allocation, the fund selection, the products, it can all be taught, right? If not taught, you can always get a wealth advisor who will do the very basic for you, right? But what cannot be taught is, just sitting still on the day that the market crashes 10-15% and not feel the urge to redeem or, to stop your SIP, right? So I always feel that the market doesn't always test your intelligence, it tests your temperament, right? And I mean, wiser people than me have also held this belief. So the wealth, like I said, is not destroyed because you chose funds which are not top performing. Most of it is destroyed because you couldn't resist, or you didn't maintain your investment discipline. You panicked, or there are so many other behavioral challenges that one may have. You may just be looking at the news which is current, right? Not looking at the trend, or you may just have this action bias, right? You may just want to keep doing something. It's very boring to just have a SIP, which is, sort of automated, and every month the money goes and you just feel the need to do something. So definitely good investing is more about discipline, about your temperament, than it is about, which is the perfect fund, because the winners will keep changing, right? You cannot always, I mean, there is no fund manager who can either time the market of, only invest in stocks that rise, right? Because, I mean, that's the way it is. So, I mean, you and I therefore cannot claim to be better than the best fund managers in India. So, therefore, if they can't do it, it's very difficult to always pick winners. So, please be disciplined. Don't panic. If you feel you're somebody who might be prone to panic, it's a good idea to have a wealth advisor. There is somebody to handhold you when things go awry. So, do everything, Devika, whatever you ask, the answer always comes back to you need to educate yourself a little bit better and try to recognize this, in your own personality.
So let's take somebody in their late 20s and is looking to you for advice on how to move in today's economy from a mindset of safety, like from seeking safety in investments to building confidence.
Seeking safety is not wrong, but the problem today is that being overly conservative or being overly safe is actually where the problem lies today, right? Because if you look at it on a post-inflation, post-tax basis, traditional products just aren't going to cut it, right? Or even if they somehow manage to give you a positive real return, they are certainly not enough to match our aspirations, right? So if you look at just the inflation part, right, we tend to look at inflation from what government tells us. But what the government is measuring is actually just the very basics, right? Roti, kapra, makan, medical, all the very basic expenses. Now, when you're in your 20s, the basic expenses form a bulk of your salary, right? So 60-70% of your salary will be going in just satisfying the very basics of life. But as you move on, like in your 30s and 40s, it might be only 20-30% of your salary which you need to, but what people like you and me need to understand, and especially people in our 20s, right, especially somebody who's 20 today, because they're very different from, when I was a 20-year-old, the mindset is completely different, is that what are we spending money on? We are going out to malls, we are eating in restaurants, we are flying abroad. If we have an event, we're not doing it at home, we're booking banquets, we're shopping in Zara and Mango. So all of that is not inflating at that 3-4% which the government is telling us. The lifestyle inflation would be closer to 14-15%, perhaps higher in many cases, right? So therefore, for somebody who's 20 today, and if you're looking at just safety, you'll be in for a bit of a rude shock, right? Because there are times when India's even have negative real return, which means that the return you're getting from an investment product or a savings product, rather, if you remove, if you account for inflation and you account for taxes and any other expenses, it's actually negative. Right. So you need somebody in their 20s needs to be quite aggressive with equity investments, right? Because they have time on their hand. Even if something goes wrong, they know that they still have paychecks which are going to be coming for many, many years into the future. So it's not about moving from safety to confidence, but I think that even a 20-year-old should be very, very confident as an investor because they have time on their side. They have time to learn. They have time to experiment. Even if they go wrong, they have time to correct it, right? So I would suggest that please start with an emergency fund, at least equivalent to 1 or 2 months of your expenses, monthly expenses. Scale it up to 3 months as early as you can. While you're scaling it from the second to third month, I would recommend that you start at least a small SIP, whatever you can manage, but something which you can manage with consistency. It shouldn't be that you heard this talk and you went and started a 10,000 rupee SIP every month, and then 3 months later you feel you cannot match it, right? So start small is fine. You must be insured. Don't confuse insurance with investment. Insurance is a risk cover just to protect you against a loss of income in the case of, disability or death. As well, medical insurance, which is to protect you against the rising cost of healthcare. Uh, these three are the very basic, right? Now, once this is handled, please, you need to increase or rather have a more sophisticated approach to your investment, which you can keep revising as you go along. But the main thing is that link your goals, right? So whatever goals you have in life, and retirement should be a goal for every 20-year-old. Don't think that retirement is 40, 50 years into the future and you don't have to worry about it now, because a lot of surveys, not just one now, say that as of today, around 80% of people who were surveyed feared that they would outlive their savings. So every 20-year-old must worry about their retirement, and any goal that you have, it's better to save and invest, defer that goal by a little bit, save and invest, and collect the money for that, rather than use credit cards or a personal loan or one of these buy now pay later schemes. Very interesting data came out. This BNPL, buy now pay later, is a $30 billion industry in India now. So there is a lot of aspiration when you're 20 and you've just moved out of the shadow of your parents, and you want to do all that and more. And trust me, I'm not a prude. I'm not saying don't do it. Money is there for you to enjoy your life, but do it within a budget. So do have a budget in mind and make sure all of these important buckets get ticked off as well.
What are the conversations at home, say, parents need to start having with their daughters, or young women need to, in order to discuss wealth and financial decisions more openly and independently?
And academics and good behavior and being polite and whatnot, but we're not passing on the family's money philosophy, right? So what may be a necessity for me may be a luxury for somebody else. For me, I think a car is a necessity, but for 80-90% of India, it's a luxury. Does my child understand, right? Or for me, my son, a few years ago had asked me that, oh, mama, this toy is broken, can we just get a new one? But when I grew up, if something broke, you had to make every possible effort to fix it. If you couldn't fix it, then you had to learn to live without it. There was no way that somebody was going to get you another one. I was not able to, I hadn't passed that on to my son, which is why he came to me looking for a replacement. Now, since then, I have, of course, made a lot of changes, but do our kids understand where we are coming from, right? For example, if there is a challenge, right? When things are great, anyway, nobody bothers. But if there is a challenge, there's this tendency that, the parents will talk about it in hushed tones behind closed doors, and kids are completely excluded, even though the children can feel the tension in the room. And, probably a lot of them may be feeling anxious, but they don't know the cause of it. I think, even financial, or rather, I think financial challenges are a great opportunity to teach our children about how we handle money, right? Children are more resilient than we think. if we take the time and the patience to explain to them how we are handling money, they will also grow to realize that every challenge is not a reason to panic. It is possible to overcome challenges if you look at it with planning and foresight, right? So let your children see you. They are not seeing their mom and dad in distress. They are seeing their mom and dad try to overcome something, which was a challenge for the family, and that is what is going to stay with them. So we must use every opportunity. Even if you're giving your children, say, pocket money, try to teach them, this whole thing of delayed gratification. Kids today um, don't seem to be getting taught this, right? Everything, because we have 10-minute delivery, and anything that they want is there before they can even ask for it a second time. But uh, delayed gratifications is one of the most important lessons that we can teach our children. So there are a lot of things. It's everyday actions, right? If, for example, if you have a girl child at home, it is very, very important for her to see her mother, an older woman whom she trusts, as somebody who is seen as responsible with money. It shouldn't be that the mother herself is getting pocket money, right? The mother is the role model here. So, and this is an opportunity for the men in the family as well to sort of step up, and take responsibility for being, more accommodative of their spouse and their children, and, use every opportunity. Kids, for example, all I did was I opened an investment account for my son, right? So I just showed him, I said, "Hmm, see your names here. This is the money we've put in, and let's see what happens after a few months." After a few months, we opened it, and he's like, "Oh, how did this money grow?" So I didn't have to make him sit down and say that I'm going to teach you about investment. He would never sit. But because it's coming from him, the curiosity, he wants to know. So it was very easy for me to explain, or even this difference between wants and need. You want something, but do you really need it?
Belief about wealth you have changed your mind about over the years?
Much to do with wealth. It's more to do with credit, right? And I had a bad experience when I was very young. I had a bad experience with a credit card, and I swore that never in my life would I ever get a credit card, and I would only live with a debit card and what I could afford. And a few years ago, I was speaking with a lady who is a specialist in repairing credit. And it intrigued me so much because I had never thought that one needed a specialist for that. And she said that, Sumaira, you may face a crisis or an emergency in your life, and when you might need a loan just to tide you over, but you will not get it because you don't have a credit history. So, that is when I started reading about it and discovered that there's good credit and bad credit, right? Good credit is very, very good for you. And this is another something that, in my book, you will find it in more detail about how young people can actually build up their credit history, right? So, uh, money is not just about investing. So rather, the culmination of, all of this was when I realized that money is not just about investing, right? But it's the entire ecosystem. There are several pillars on which your wealth stands, right? Investment is one of them, right? Credit is another. Your will, estate planning is another. Taxation is another. So it's not just that, I've put money in mutual funds and, I'm sorted for life. There is an entire architecture around your wealth, and, you must take efforts to understand more about it and sort of do the entire ecosystem and not just focus on any one.
But one, parting thought that I want from you for young women. We're going to, since your book focuses on women, so I want to ask you this: a confidence booster or an understanding you feel that's going to help her, what would it be?
If they just understand how an SIP works, that will change their way, right? Compounding is the only thing they need to understand in terms of investment. If they can understand how money works or how compounding works over time, that's all they will need to sort of tide them over.